guys, Dr.Pitanger here, and today I'm gonna do a simple tier list of what I think are the best and the worst squads in IS. So it's gonna be for IS2, IS3 and IS4. I am eagerly awaiting IS5, don't spoil me in the comments please. I have basically no idea what IS5 is about. The only things I know is that 4 stars are apparently pretty good. Tin Man is apparently pretty good and I don't care because I'm not gonna play him anyway. I also know that you're fighting some certain interesting bosses, right, like Calcite or something, and that's about it. That's pretty much the only knowledge about IS5 that I have. I also know there's some kind of crystals you have to destroy in some stages. Anyway, we're not here to talk about IS5, we are here to talk about IS2, 3 and 4. So let's start. And we're gonna start with what I think is one of the worst squads in the game. It's IS2 first class squad. I'm gonna put it in D simply because tactical squads in IS2 are extremely powerful. They're extremely powerful, they give you automatically upgraded 6 stars, and it only costs 6 hope to recruit them and only 1 voucher, so it's unbelievably powerful unless you're starting in hard mode and you get the relic that increases the hope of all of your operators by 1. Tactical squads are basically gonna be first class, but better in pretty much every way. The starting voucher you get can be pretty interesting, but most of the time, if you know what starting units are good, then you shouldn't struggle that much with quote-unquote only 3 units. So I think it's very bad compared to tactical squads, and that's why I'm putting it in D. Next we have Gathering Squad. So Gathering Squad in IS2 is the same as in IS3 and IS4, so I'm gonna put them pretty much in the same tier. So Gathering Squad is you start with +2 squad size and +2 deployment limits. So obviously it's not very good in the early game, it's a very late squad, and for this, I think it's pretty good in low Braving Nature or Surging Wave and pretty bad in high Surging Wave and high Braving Nature, because usually you want a power spike right from the beginning, right? You want a 6 star or you want some good ways to acquire some good relics. You don't really want the squad size and the deployment. In IS4 it's a bit more valuable because having more deployment means you can enter a boss key passage, and if you get the lowered deployment limit debuff, then it's not gonna be as impactful as if you have started with another squad, right? But that's the only perk that this squad has in IS4 over IS2 and IS3, for example. I would say they are probably C tier simply because they struggle so much in the early game. Yeah, I'm probably gonna put them all 3 in C tier. I do believe that these are not very good in general. Again, in the late game these are pretty good, but there are so much ways to acquire squad size. Like there's safe houses, there's increasing your level, there's relics, there's so many ways. Like why would you want squad size from the beginning, right? So no, I don't really like this squad. So next we have IS2 Leader Squad, which is very different from IS3 and IS4 Leader Squad. IS2 Leader Squad is start each fight with 4 temporary life points. So that means that for each fight you can allow 4 enemies to pass through the gates, which is weirdly enough not that bad, I would say. There's a lot of stages that can be very difficult to do if you don't have like good units that you can redeploy all over. Like there's this stage where there are enemies in the 4 corners in IS2. There's this stage where the poison map, where there are casters that come on the right and mortars that come on the top. And so usually you have to deal with like 2 or 3 very strong enemies and the rest is a piece of cake. And with this squad particularly, you can allow these very strong enemies to pass through the gate. Still, it only gives temporary HP, it doesn't serve any purpose against the boss, so I would say it's not a bad squad at all. It removes some of the stress, and that's already pretty good. I would say it's an S tier squad for new players though, because it's one of the least punishing squad, I would say. So S tier if you're a new player, otherwise it's probably like around C tier. I'm willing to put it either high C tier or low B tier. It's definitely not the worst squad, but the fact that it doesn't give any edge on the late game is pretty detrimental, I would say. I'm gonna put it low B for now. Research Squad. Start with +2 HP, and you get plus 30% EXP with each fight. Research Squad is basically like Gathering, I would say, because it's very late game oriented, right? The plus EXP will pay off in the long run because it will give you more hope, it will give you more squad size. Still, again, no real benefits in the early game, only some benefits in the late game, so it's pretty much like Gathering. I'm willing to put it like next to each other, I would say. Spearhead. So, weirdly enough, Spearhead, even though they are literally the same between IS-2, IS-3 and IS-4, they will all get different gradings. Let me explain. In IS-4, starting with 1 HP isn't very problematic because of the perks that you unlock that will allow you to gain back these HP after every fight, right? So in IS-4 it's not a problem at all. In IS-2 it can be very punishing because there's no real way to gain back the HPs that you lost. So you might end up dying in the first floor or on the first 2 floors. In IS-3 it's the worst one because fighting on low HP in IS-3 will lower your light, and if you lower your light you're gonna end up with more drawbacks. So I would say this, it's very bad in IS-3. It's middle of the ground in IS-2, and it's actually pretty great in IS-4. In IS-4, I would say it's, yeah, it can be very powerful, like plus 15% attack and HP is very strong. Spearhead in IS-4, I would say, is an A tier. In IS-2, I would say is B tier, probably. And in IS-3, I would say is, simply because it gives some bonuses, I would say it's C tier, so it's not like the worst one, but simply because with the update they released after a while, we now have a way to gain back some light, right? So light isn't as much as an issue as it used to be. I would say very early on IS-3 Spearhead would have been D tier. I would say nowadays it's C tier, but yeah, that's about it. Like, yeah, let's put it here. Support Squad. Support Squad, whatever the IS, is always the same. Gain plus 20 Original Ingots and plus 2 Hope. So anything that gives you hope from the beginning is good, because it allows you to recruit a 6-star right from the beginning, and on top of that, it allows you to buy a lot of things in the shop. So I'd say this, because shops are more valuable in IS-4, I would say in IS-4 it's an A tier squad. Absolutely. Because you can get a lot of very good things with plus 20 Original Ingot in IS-4. So yeah, in IS-4 I would say it's an A tier squad. In IS-3 it's probably also an A tier squad, I'm willing to say, maybe a bit lower. In IS-2, because shops are less valuable, right, you gain in general way more Original Ingots than you will have shops, and particularly because tactical squads also allow you to recruit a 6-star, and this time it's promoted, I would say it's a C tier. It's clearly not as powerful as it is in IS-4 and IS-3. Still, I mean, it can be used, it's not like completely useless like D tier squads, right? So yeah, tactical squads, in my opinion, in IS-2 and probably IS-3 and IS-4 are all S tier. Particularly in IS-2, I would say they are all S tier. Tactical squads mean that all the 6-star you recruit in 2 specific classes are already gonna get promoted and at max level, all of this for only 1 voucher and 6 hope. That's unbelievably powerful. In IS-3 and IS-4, you can get this option, right? You can get 6 stars that are already promoted and they will only cost you 5 hope, but it's not guaranteed. Like, they are not always gonna get promoted. Sometimes you're gonna want to recruit 6 stars and they are only gonna be at E1 for 5 hope, and you're gonna spend another voucher and 2 hope to promote them, which is not bad at all. Still, it's not as broken as in IS-2. In IS-2 it's unbelievably powerful. I would say that the fortification one a while ago would have been probably B or yeah, maybe even lower tier, because there were not a lot of good supporter and defenders. However, Jessica Alter happened, and Shu happened, and Virtuosa happened. So all these new operators, I would say, elevated the squad to the same rank as the other 3, I would say. Feel free to tell me if you think, like, for example, the Guard Vanguard or the Caster Specialist are as good. Yeah, in my opinion, I would still put them in S, right? Because I believe the Defender one can be extremely powerful in IS-2, for example, against the 4th boss, or against the 2nd boss, most particularly, because, well, the bear hits pretty hard, and with Defenders, well, you won't have a lot of issues with this. So yeah, that's how I would rate them. Maybe, yeah, if I really have to order them, I would say Specialist Caster is probably S tier, simply because, well, Golden Glow and Logos and Texas Altar and Ella and all this stuff. I would say Fortification is probably the last one, and Vanguard Guard the second one. Yeah, that seems fine. Yeah, sure. Alright, Ice 3 First Class Squad. Gain a random voucher that will give you a free 5-star. I don't like this class. I don't like first class in general, because there's a good reason for that. Recruiting a 5-star in the early game can be a double-edged sword for many reasons. The main reason is that there are some very good 5-stars, right? Like, for example, Minimalist or Bybeak or this kind of stuff. But at the same time, there are some very bad 5-stars. There's like Kirara, there's like Briofia. Like, if you get the aforementioned 5-stars, then you're fine. But if you get Briofita or Kirara, you cry. So that's the first drawback. And the second drawback is that there's a huge diminishing return in picking a lot of 5-stars. Because what is gonna win you a run in IS? Not 5-stars. Usually it's gonna be 6-stars. I mean, obviously, if you're Dr. Silvergun who only plays with 4-star, then sure, it's not gonna be 6-stars either. But regular players, normal players, will play with everything they have at their disposal, and particularly 6-stars. So yeah, I don't think first class is really good. I would say it's probably maybe better than the IS-2 first class. Still, it's not that good. Like, yeah, I don't really like it. Alright, Ice 3 Leader Squad is the same as Ice 4 Leader Squad, so I'm gonna put them at the same place, and that is gonna be D tier. I really don't like these squads. Like, having +2 max HP and gaining +1 HP isn't very interesting, for many reasons. First of all, you don't want to lose HP in the first place, so I would say it's even worse in Ice 4, because increasing your collapse value is much more detrimental than losing HP. And the only advantage to having more HP is that you're gonna start stacking objective shields. So you can get a win con by, for example, having more than 30 HP and fighting the boss and letting the boss leak. That's a legit winning con, right? Still, most of the time, you don't want this. You actually want to kill the boss. You don't want, well, the boss to leak. I mean, it shouldn't be a plan. It should be a backup plan, and that's about it. So saying you get a starting squad only because it's a backup plan doesn't sound very good, and that's because it's not. So that's why Leader Squad is going in B. Alright, Mind Over Matter, also known as the RNG squad. It's a very weird squad. It's one of the most RNG dependent squad, I would say, because you start with an item that allows your operators to keep on getting stronger and stronger, which can be pretty fine if you can manage to quickly get a 6-star, right? And you also have a lot of chance to get additional collectibles. So all of this means that if the RNG is good to you and the stat bonus starts going into the right operator, and you also get collectibles that reinforce that one operator even further, you have won your run, for sure. But let's say you get the wrong collectibles, and you also don't get the right stat boost. Like, for example, it goes into a reserve operator or something. You're pretty much fucked. So, because it's very RNG dependent, I would say it's B tier. It's not bad. Like, it's a pretty good squad, I would say. Still, it's pretty much a squad you take, for example, if you want more RNG in your RNG minigame. So it can end up giving you some very funny runs. Still, if you're starting, never pick this squad. If you want something consistent, never pick this squad. But it can be very funny, so it's not bad, it's not good either. B tier is the perfect place for this. Alright, people oriented. Recruiting and promoting an operator costs -1 hope, and you can get more rewards from safe houses. So it's pretty good, because more reward from safe houses means that each safe house can, for example, promote 2 operators, or gain +1 squad size and 1 promoted operator, or like +6 hope if you want to, or like +2 squad size. It can be very powerful in a lot of situations. Also, it completely negates the hope debuff that you get starting from Surging Waves 3. So since every time you're gonna recruit or promote an operator, it basically means that you gain 1 hope, quote unquote. Over the course of an entire run, you're probably gonna get the value of like +20 hope, right? So it's unbelievably powerful. You can get more squad size, you can get all these bonuses from safe houses. Yeah, I would say it's an S tier squad in my opinion. The only downside is that, contrary to tactical squad, you don't get the opportunity to get E2 promoted 6-star from the get-go, but still, I would say it's probably S tier, yeah. Alright, Research Squad is the same as in Ice 2, so yeah. I don't think it's really good. I'd rather pick like people-oriented or older tactical squads in my opinion. Resourceful squad. Resourceful squad means you gain +2 dice rolls every time you enter a new floor, and your dice is upgraded to an 8-sided dice. This is extremely powerful with one specific node, that is Wish Fulfilled, because usually in Wish Fulfilled you only have 1 chance out of 6 to gain double collectibles, and with this dice you get 3 chances out of 8, which is almost 50%. So that's pretty good. You also lower the chances that you get debuffs upon entering a new floor. You can use a lot of dices to, for example, stall against the boss or wait until your operators can be redeployed again. So yeah, it's very versatile. I really like this squad. I don't think it's like the most powerful squad for sure, but it's certainly a very strong squad. I'm willing to put it like in A tier. Yeah. IS-3 tactical squads are basically the same as IS-4 tactical squads, right? If you ask me, I would say all the tactical squads are probably among the most powerful in all IS. I would say they are either S tier or A tier, that's for sure. Again, the fortification a while ago would have been probably like B, even C tier, but since there are nowadays so many more new operators that fits in this category, I would say it's on par with the others. In my opinion, since IS-3 is very dependent on range damage and healing, I'm willing to put the tactical range squad in S tier for sure. I'm not sure about the others. I feel like the others belong in A tier. Since most of the time you don't want a lot of casters in IS-3, I would say destruction is probably A tier. Like, it's very dependent on what you can get. Of course, if you get a lot of operators that can reduce the resistance, or if you get a lot of bonuses for casters, then you're still gonna be able to deal damage even though enemies will have a lot of resistance. So I would say it's A tier, like low A tier. The other one are probably high A tier, I would say. Yeah, that's how I would do this. Also, it depends, because for example, if you go to the second ending, then fortification is probably even S tier too. Yeah, it really depends on the ending, I would say. Still, I feel like this is okay. And now we reach the IS-4 specific squad. So Eternal Hunting is you start with +2 max HP, which is kinda whatever. It's pretty much like leader, so let's not talk about this too much. However, if you finish an operation without taking damage, then you lower the collapse value, but if you take damage, then you increase the collapse value even more. I used to like this squad a lot, and then I got better at playing IS-4, I got better at managing my collapse value, reducing it whenever I was able to, using resonances in order to reduce it even further, and over time I didn't like this squad that much. I would say it's low B tier. Being able to not have any debuff can be very strong, particularly for some endings where you'll necessarily increase your collapse value, for example against Crescent. It can be pretty strong, right? But usually I'm not that much of a fan. I think tactical squads in general are much better, and this one is kinda middle tier, and yeah, I played it a lot, but I certainly won't put it higher than B. IS-4 First Class is the strongest First Class squad among the 3, and even so, it's still not that good, I'm sorry. The only difference with IS-3 is that your 5 stars now have higher chance of getting promoted. Is that good? It can be, but it's certainly not game changer. I would say it's still D tier, I'm sorry. I have played First Class a lot. There's some very strong 5-star operators, but again, your game plan can be completely fucked if you get some very bad 5 stars, or if you tend to pick too much 5 stars and you forget that 6 stars are a thing too, and you start saving your hope for no reason, and then you die because you're an idiot, and you remember, oh yeah, I could have picked like any tactical squad and it probably would have been better. Life prioritizing is definitely the hardest squad to evaluate, because depending on the fordatals you get, it's either an S tier squad or a D tier squad. Like literally, you can get the worst fordatals in the game and you can get the best fordatals in the game. What I really don't like about this squad is that it insensitizes rerolling. Like it insensitizes you to start a squad, check the fordatals you get, then give up if you don't get any good fordatals and start over again. And I'm really not a fan of this. Like, I think it's bad design. In my opinion, it would have been much better if it read as gain 1 random fordatal when starting, and then gain 1 new random fordatal whenever you enter a new floor. In my opinion, this would have been much better. I'm not sure why they designed it this way, but in any case, I'm really not a fan. Since it can be either S or D, I would say, well, it's between these both, so I'm willing to put it like in B tier. Maybe even in C tier, I'm not sure. Like, it's probably either low B tier or high C, again, it has a chance of high rolling and giving you some extremely powerful things, so I can put it in C. Like, honestly, you can get some broken things with this, but I'm really not a fan of the design. Scientific thinking. You start with 0 anti-interference index, but every time you enter a new floor, you gain +2. And the description is wrong. You actually don't get +2 whenever you enter, for example, the 6th floor, so be careful about this. I really don't like this squad at all. Starting with 0 anti-interference index can be very detrimental. You don't know where you're going, you can take some very bad emergencies. You don't know if the fight you're gonna enter is an emergency or not. I would say it can be very powerful in the late game, but in the early game, particularly, for example, if you want to, I don't know, like fight Crescent, for example, it's very bad. I really don't like this squad at all. In my opinion, there's much better ways to get anti-interference index. You can buy some in the shop, you can get some relics that increase the anti-interference index, the scouting nodes. Yeah, I really don't like this one. In my opinion, it's a C tier. I'm not willing to put it higher than this. I'm really sorry. I know it can be very powerful, particularly in the late game, but I don't like it at all. Special training squad. You start with +3 objective shields and promotions are free. I have very bad history about this squad because for some reason, every time I play this squad, I always get vouchers of different classes, and that's the worst thing you can get. You actually want vouchers from the same class. You want, like, for example, double guards, so you can, I don't know, like E2 your Dagon Breaker as soon as possible. You want 2 snipers, so you can E2 your Wizardair or your Ray as soon as possible. That's what you want, but for some reason I always get like 1 specialist plus 1 guard plus 1 Vanguard plus 1 supporter plus 1 medic plus... anyway, you get the point. So I know it can be extremely powerful, but for some reason I always get unlucky, specifically when I play this squad. Don't ask me why. In any case, the main issue I have with this squad is that you don't get hope increase when starting with it. So you can't pick a 6-star unless you get the bonus. If you want a 6-star, you have to save your hope and start with a squad with a 4-star in it. Which is not bad, right? Because you can then put these objective shields to good use, right? Still, what you need to do is that you need to start with a 4-star, and then whenever you finish the first fight, you get a 6-star, and then you need to wait another voucher in order to E2 the 6-star. It's a pretty long process. You don't get a lot of early game value with this, so in my opinion, it's clearly not as powerful as the tactical squads that give you immediate power spikes. So I'm willing to put it like in high B, I would say. My opinion is not as strong as the tactical squads for sure. And then we reach the final squads, so the tactical IS4 squads. They are probably gonna end up in the same way as the IS3 squads because they are literally the same, but the fights are a bit different. I would say the fortification, in my opinion, is probably S tier. Like, I'm willing to put the fortification in S tier nowadays because Jessica Alter is such a monster in IS4. I would say it's definitely S tier. The caster and specialist one is also S tier, that's for sure, because enemies don't have as much resistance as they have in IS3, so it's not really an issue. Snipers and medics is also S tier, I'm sorry, because we have Wizardair, we have Ray, we have... This is so strong in IS4. Snipers is such a busted class anyway nowadays that I can't put this lower than an S tier. And finally, we have Vanguard and Guard. I mean, the thing is, it's very dependent on having an S, most notably. So if you don't have an S, it's probably like B tier, but if you have an S, it's again absolutely S tier. I'm sorry, I think all the tactical squads in IS4 are S tier in my opinion. These are the strongest squads in IS4. If you want to win a run in IS4, definitely pick one of these squads. I'm not sure how to put them in order. I would say this is pretty good. Yeah, probably. And there you have it. This is my tier list for IS squads. There's probably a lot of things you disagree with, right? So feel free to comment about this. I do think the tactical squads and their abilities to recruit a promoted 6-star or at least a 6-star that will not cost a lot of hope to get promoted is good. I do think the fact that if you start with 6 hope, you recruit a 6-star that only costs 5, so you have 1 more hope left. And if you get another voucher later and you have increased your level, so that means you have gained 4 hope, so you're at 5 hope again, then you can already recruit a second 6-star. I do think this is extremely strong. I think the squads that give you starting Original Ingot and Hope have the potential to be extremely strong in IS3 and in IS4. I do think the squads that boost 5-star recruitments and stuff are very bad because I do think 5 stars in general need a buff in Arknights, I would say. because, well, they are basically the same as 4 stars. They have 2 skills, they have only 1 talent, except for very few of them, like paramedics. I don't even know why they don't all have a second talent, right? This would make more sense. Like 6 star would have 2 talents and 3 skills, 4 stars would have 1 talent and 2 skills, and 5 star would have 2 talents and 2 skills. This would make more sense to me, but anyway. So yeah, there you have it. So hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to agree or disagree with me in the comments, and thank you for watching.